I'm Colin. I'll be joined by Charlie a little bit later on this episode of the podcast. This is a special edition of the C&C Talks podcast. During this episode, we're going to have a conversation with AJ Perez, a senior reporter from Front Office Sports. He was one of the people that broke the story of this massive lawsuit that was filed over the weekend against, among others, Fox Sports, Charlie Dixon, the vice president of content for Fox Sports 1, Skip Bayless, and Joy Taylor. This was an absolutely explosive lawsuit. But before we get into that conversation with AJ Perez, let's get into some of the details of this lawsuit. There was a sexual misconduct in the workplace lawsuit, primarily filed by a woman named Miss Faraji, who worked for many years as a hairdresser at Fox Sports. She faced sexual harassment and sexual advances from Charlie Dixon, the vice president at the network, probably the most powerful person at FS1, faced sexual harassment from Skip Bayless, sexual advances from him. Some of the more concerning aspects of that include a time when Bayless was making advances. Faraji responded, "Skip, stop, you have a wife." And Skip Bayless responded, "Aren't you Muslim? Doesn't your dad have 3 to 4 wives?" So an example of clear Islamophobia there. That was one of many examples of some of the allegations against Skip Bayless. Charlie Dixon was also alleged to have been really just sleeping around with a lot of women at the network in positions much inferior to his. He was the person with a lot of power at the network, and he was known to use this as a way of really selecting women at the network, right? Those who would engage in sexual acts with him would be promoted. Those that would maybe report it to HR could have their hours cut, could end up being terminated, which is what ended up happening to Faraji. In this example, she went to HR. HR really did not treat the situation with any urgency. In fact, it was very clear that higher-ups such as Charlie Dixon became aware that she reported this to HR. This is, of course, all according to the filing. It is important to note that at the moment, these are just allegations. Ms. Faraji will have her day in court at some point to prove these allegations. The other main part of this lawsuit had to do with Joy Taylor, a current host at Fox still. Obviously, Bayless is gone, but Joy Taylor is still hosting, and essentially what it alleged, and we'll get into this part more with AJ Perez when he joins us, but what is alleged is that Joy Taylor essentially slept her way into the position that she was with. First with Charlie Dixon, the executive, who then hired her then to be on Undisputed when it first launched, the show with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. That Joy Taylor essentially got that job, even though Skip Bayless was hesitant, as a personal favor for Charlie Dixon from Skip Bayless. Eventually, she ended up moving on to other shows. This includes a show with Emmanuel Acho. It is also alleged in this lawsuit that she had a romantic relationship with him for, in her eyes, the sole purpose of landing that spot on his show. So some really unethical conduct all around. It was also alleged that Joy Taylor said that she was eventually going to claim that Charlie Dixon raped her incorrectly. According to these filings, the rape is not something that actually happened. Some other key notes in this lawsuit are just that Skip Bayless allegedly offered Miss Faraji $1.5 million for sex. Another interesting detail, not necessarily one of the most important details, but an interesting detail is that Bobby Diaz, the person who puts the microphone on talent, was not fired despite openly groping and harassing women at Fox. Apparently not fired due to the fact that he supplies cocaine to numerous Fox employees and talent. So some really crazy stuff, not necessarily surprising given other incidents that have happened at Fox before. It really speaks to the culture that exists at that network, and we'll get into all of that in just a minute with AJ Perez. We really encourage you to read his article up at Front Office Sports on it and read the entire lawsuit, which is available online. It's 42 pages. And again, it's important to stress that as of right now, these are just allegations. But with that, let's get into our conversation with AJ Perez.
All right, we are now joined by AJ Perez. He is a senior reporter at Front Office Sports. He broke the story along with his colleague Michael McCarthy of this lawsuit against Fox. AJ, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I want to kind of start with some of the allegations. And there's a few notable defendants named in this lawsuit. Obviously, Fox Sports, the company, but also in terms of individuals, Charlie Dixon, FS1's vice president of content, was named. Skip Bayless, of course, a former Fox host, was named. But then another person that was named in this lawsuit was Joy Taylor, who still hosts a show on FS1, a co-host of Speak. Some of the allegations against her were romantic relationships that she engaged in with Charlie Dixon and with Emmanuel Acho, another host currently at the network, as well as what I thought was a much more concerning allegation that she planned to falsely accuse Dixon of rape. Now, these are obviously extremely examples of extremely unethical conduct, but what I'm a little bit unsure of looking at this lawsuit is why she is named as a defendant. How specifically did did her conduct affect Ms. Faraji, the plaintiff in this lawsuit?
Yeah, reading into it, I have to speculate since it didn't really spell it out in the lawsuit that maybe that's her departure was related to something that Joy did. And that's the whole thing. These are just allegations of a lawsuit. Obviously, when you file a lawsuit, penalty of perjury, you're not supposed to, everything in the lawsuit should be accurate. Really, but it's all including Joy and several of the allegations about Joy seem to be kind of tacked on there. I just don't see her as being at least there was maybe something behind the scenes that will come out later that why she was definitely a defendant in this lawsuit. And this is going to take so long. We're gonna if this goes to trial, we're probably going to be like 18 months from now, and it's not going to get to trial. I've covered these before. NFL Network in 2017, somewhat similar. They caused a lot of talent to leave, including Donovan McNabb and a few others. There's a lot. There's these things usually usually take a long time. I mean, a settlement, and this is really we're in a time crunch right now. We're a month away from the Super Bowl. Fox Sports is broadcasting the Super Bowl. FS1's going to have a huge complex, like big complex there. Last year when CBS had it, they had it in front of when it was in Vegas. They were at a huge thing outside of one of the casinos outside the media center. They're going to have a big setup there. And the last thing that Eric Shanks, who's the head of Fox Sports, or anybody else, or Big Fox corporate, wants is these lingering questions. So, is there the timing of this lawsuit so close to the Super Bowl? Does that play into it? But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how. Yeah, you're right. She's a defendant. So is Skip Bayless, who's no longer even at Fox. So it's kind of like there when you're going when you're suing a company, obviously you sue the company and you sue the executives, but having talent and former talent in Skip's case being brought into it when Joy is not a manager, wasn't her boss. It just seems kind of it is what it is, but it's kind of like I can't really tell you why since no one's talking. I haven't found out who Joy's lawyer is. I've Skip Bayless's personal lawyer is not his lawyer handling this. I don't even know who that is. Charlie Dixon, I have not figured out who his lawyer is yet. So there's a lot of things that are going to be coming out, and we're still a few weeks, probably still at least we'll have some filings. The next filings are going to be who's the next, like, who are the lawyers, who's going to represent Fox, who's going to represent Dixon, if there's a different attorney than Fox, and who's going to represent Bayless and Joy. So it's kind of like we're still in this little like unknown area when no one's talking, which is shocking because even the hairdressers lawyers didn't get back to me for like 26 hours after my first inquiry, which came about hour and a half before our story ran.
So follow up to that, you mentioned that her lawyers, they did give you a statement. I believe read, our client looks forward to being vindicated and hopes this will compel Fox to make meaningful and substantial steps. That doesn't sound like the statement of somebody that wants to settle this out of court. And yet
Mhm.
you said that you don't think this will get to trial.
Yeah. They all sound like that at first. So it's just kind of like it's and we don't even know. We in Mike's story today, which I helped him on, that ran today was kind of about or actually late last night, was on basically the normal course is plaintiff lawyers go to the corporation, whoever they are targeting, to settle before it comes public. We don't even know if they approached him yet. Most likely they did. I mean, that's how this civil law works normally. You don't be before splash across the headlines or well, this time they just filed it and I just found the lawsuit. But it's like, there's like, so it's been a very weird case because usually some of these big cases they have their favorite reporters that they go to and they like leak them. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, one of those places. They'll leak the report there, or give them a draft of the complaint, and then it's going to go live at 12:30, whatever on Friday. Look out for it. I'll give you the heads up when it goes live, and that's how these things usually work. And I've been on, I don't do a lot of that. I'm not one of those lawyers or one of those reporters lawyers go to first. But it's that's I have a little experience working with that. But as a reporter, when that happens, it's like you have to be very, very, very careful because you have to make sure you're not just doing PR for the law firm trying to get their name out there. You have to make sure. I've been given a few lawsuits where I just read them. I'm like, this is nothing. I mean, there's just the evidence is not there. It's poorly written. Any allegations or at least illegal allegations, are just can't be verified. This one here was just like had so much in it, and including a sound guy who was an alleged cocaine dealer. So it's been a lot. It's a lot of things in that
That
lawsuit.
was definitely an interesting added detail to the lawsuit. Charlie, you want to talk about some higher ups at Fox?
Yeah, you mentioned Eric Shanks, obviously the CEO at Fox Sports, as well as Mike Silverman, who's the president of Fox Sports. Neither of them were named as of now. So why was that? And do you think they will be added into this?
Well, I can't speculate on that, but really, I worked at Fox Sports right when they launched FS1. And my contract wasn't renewed. It was like I'm not a TV guy, not a shock. So I just obviously went on my own with my career and it was fine. And but it was what happened and what I've been this to be in my next story is like it's a silo there. They're like you see Fox, you think MLB and NFL, you think of the big Fox on broadcast TV. That's FS1 isn't a silo. They're just basically they're off on their own. And it's like so a lot of the stuff that we see on Sunday on NFL Fox Sunday and everything else, it's like that doesn't really translate to FS1. The different some talent overlaps, but a lot of the people who work on FS1 only work on FS1. So it's really maybe a lack of oversight from the couple of people that you just brought up, or they may not have been paying attention to what's going on in FS1. So maybe Shanks was mentioned in the lawsuit, but not in a really bad way. So it's like, were they just allowed to do their own thing there without anybody else kind of keeping an eye on them? Was there for like a little frat house situation there? That's what it seems like in the lawsuits. These are all allegations, and nothing's been proven. But that's kind of what it comes off as. Charlie Dixon is the head of Fox Sports One for basically. So a lot of the stuff happened under his watch. That makes sense why he's a defendant in this lawsuit. But these are there's been no indications that I'll have some reporting now I can't talk about yet till it goes live. But there's indications, and we've seen Marcellus Wiley and we've seen Jason Whitlock kind of basically say a lot of the stuff's true, but that's also just that's not really evidence. That's just people talking on their YouTube channel.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we also saw Stephen A. Smith on ESPN. Oh, well, not on ESPN. He said it on his own YouTube show.
Yeah.
Essentially say that this doesn't sound like the Skip Bayless that he knows. But like you said, like none of that is actually evidence at all.
Yeah.
I will ask about some previous incidents at Fox. This is not at Fox Sports, but over at Fox News, which is also run by the Murdochs. This company is no stranger to workplace harassment, workplace discrimination incidents. We saw back 2016, I believe, Roger Ailes get the huge lawsuit against him ended up getting him fired. Bill O'Reilly was pushed out at Fox News. And these were both examples where Rupert Murdoch personally stepped in. Obviously, he's no longer in charge at Fox. That's now his son, Lachlan Murdoch. Is this something that could end up rising to the level where the Murdochs have to get involved?
I think they are already. I think they have to be. At least Lachlan has to be. Eric Shanks and Lachlan have a good relationship, and Shanks obviously had a good relationship with his dad, Rupert. So I think that's the thing is that I think this is kind of like when you have a huge company like Fox. I know they did sell off the RSNs, and Disney sold them, and they're not as big as they were. But it's still a huge company, and so there's a lot of things that even Eric Shanks this was probably news to him. A lot of this, probably a lot of most all of it, hopefully, because it would be really for him to turn a blind eye to this, knowing, as you said, what happened with Roger Ailes. Roger Ailes had a lot of allegations, multiple women, coming forward, and that's what happens. This is kind of we're waiting to happen now. We have one hairdresser who worked there for a while, a long time, about a decade or so. Is there, and this was set up as a class action lawsuit for anybody who worked over the last 4 years for the Fox Corporation in Southern California. So there's a lot that we're waiting for, a lot of things in this lawsuit, including more evidence, but also who else is out there? I mean, if this, when you go through the roster at FS1, it's mostly male, but there are women there. So, are there any other women? We got. I covered the wardrobe designer who sued NFL Network. Are there people like that? Are there makeup people? Are there other support staff who are women who experience close to the same thing or the exact same thing or witnessed it? I mean, in the lawsuit she says that there's witnesses. So we're waiting for that. I mean, that's just why it's hard to get information out of Fox right now, even though I know some people there. No one's talking to me right now. At least, as far as anybody who's currently at FS1, there's really hard. There's like it's like a blackout. So they're all been. I'm sure they've been told to not talk to people like me. But it's been hard to gather information. But I've gotten a few things from my other sources. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting in terms of people talking is we see shows like Speak or Acho's show. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name of it at the moment. Or even the Skip Bayless show, which is, of course, is no longer affiliated with Fox. They're still like posting on social media through the whole thing, right? Just posting clips.
Yeah.
And of course, in the comments of all of those, like, when are you going to address the elephant in the room? And for me, I don't see why they would. I'd imagine that the legal counsel would be, don't talk about this at the moment. But so my question then is, why is Fox, for the talent that they do control, Acho, who again isn't named here but is still implicated in some unethical behavior, Joy Taylor, why are they still allowed on air? Do you think have been conversations about potentially pulling them from the air temporarily while this is going on at Fox?
Well, this broke on Sunday, and about 24 hours later, Joey went on the air. So it was kind of I'd be shocked if she wasn't on the air.
Okay.
Because this is the biggest allegations are against really Dixon, Charlie Dixon, and since he's the one in charge, and obviously we don't know the situation there right now. I'm sure there's talks. I'm sure there are a lot of phone calls Sunday after the story went up, and into Monday, yesterday, and today. But it's kind of like, what do you do? You have this. Does a lawsuit, which is nothing. It's not proof of anything. It's just a lawsuit. Do they? There's one way you can look at it is, do they not see these accusations as valid? This is why they're doing it that way. But they didn't come out really with a strong statement and say where these are unfounded allegations. We are pushing back. When I've gotten those statements for lawsuits or they're just like push back like this is all bogus, blah blah blah. They didn't say that. Now they're not saying anything since. So that's kind of like this is a new era for me. It's like a new area to cover. It's like kind of how this has gone. It's like I've been covering these things for 20 plus years. This is a new way. This is a new type of lawsuit for how it was written and how many allegations it had. And naming talent and former talent as defendants. That's something I've never seen. And the way the plaintiff's lawyers didn't put her up in front of a microphone on Monday or yesterday or today. It's like they're handling it in a very different way, where it's like they just threw this lawsuit out there and we're all left to kind of dissect it. And the legal process is not going to we're probably 6 weeks away from the first motion to dismiss from any of the defendants, where they're going to rebut the claims. We're still a month and a half away, likely. I mean, hopefully sooner. Who knows? They may file one tomorrow. They may already be over it. They may have already, if they were approached before the lawsuit was filed, the lawyers in the background could have already been mounting the defense, and they want to get their retort out via a motion to dismiss. That could be one way to handle it. Or are they quiet because they're talking about a settlement already, which they should have been talking about before if they were approached, I guess, because this is not making anybody look good. And it obviously, if this is a toxic situation, then I think, and we saw from that statement, we saw from the lawsuit, is the aim of this lawsuit to make the working environment better for women and better for everybody in Fox? Is that why it was done? Is that why it was filed, or was this filed for monetary reasons?
Yeah. We saw another one of these big allegations in this lawsuit regarding kind of the response from HR at Fox seemed very bad, and this would seem to, if you look back at the Ailes, the O'Reilly lawsuits
Yeah,
again,
you would think that they would have fixed that. You think they would have fixed it. I mean, you think back we're going back 8 years. You think after all those allegations, after Tucker Carlson's departure, everything there at Fox in New York, you think they would have learned from that. If these allegations are accurate, they would have they would have fixed the HR, and they would have had a tip line, they would have had an anonymous or just kind of like a basic email tip line. That a lot of HR or setups have those where you can anonymously say something about something troubling at work. Well, I'm not sure if they have that or not, but has to be. But really, it's oversight. If all this stuff really falls on one person, Charlie Dixon, who's keeping an eye on Charlie Dixon? I mean, that's like, and who's maybe not visiting the FS1's, any Fox exec, even big Fox coming in. Are they not policing? Are they not going into FS1? Are they not making sure everything's right there? The HR is a big part of it. But the HR is really just underneath, the corporate culture there, and HR is, a lot of people say HR is only there to protect the company. And in that regard, they failed because this lawsuit has happened. Yes. If HR really knew about any of this stuff, as the lawsuit alleges, and did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the other, it's HR, by addressing employee complaints, that does protect the company, right? So
yes.
Then finally, I'll just ask about the other thing that kind of caught me in this lawsuit, besides obviously the explosive cocaine story, was one of the wildest short paragraphs I've ever read of text in there, but was just the casual racism and Islamophobia that we saw. Specifically the comment from Skip Bayless regarding her dad potentially having several wives. I think if you have any thoughts on kind of the culture, the just general culture at Fox.
Yeah, again, these are only allegations in a lawsuit. Sure, but if that, I mean, it'd be shocking. I mean, the reason the story took off, we all know. Well, there's the main reason was Skip Bayless. He's a heel. Of course. He's always been the contrarian. He's had, he's also, people who've worked with him, and I've never worked with him, but people who've worked with him, I've talked to many people who worked with him over the years, and going back to the Dallas Morning News. San Jose Mercury News, and even going and forward. He's not the most likable guy, I would say. So he made himself. Now, does that make himself a target for this kind of thing? Maybe. I mean, everybody like to pile on, but but how, we don't know. We know Stephen A said on Monday that she kept really good notes, basically. So is that all? I mean, if this is her at the end of the day or during her day going in a diary writing stuff down, that's, and those kind of notes are very important in these kind of workplace harassment lawsuits, because like you have that's could be considered pretty good evidence, right? Now it's only her word against theirs, but she wrote it down and put the date, time. I was doing this. I cut his hair, I get his hair, or do something. You can verify some of that stuff looking back. You can look back, and he was there that day, he got this done. There's going to be a record of that. There's not going to be a record of the harassment unless it was filmed for some reason, which I doubt that'll be the case. But it's like, so those are things are all kind of, you have to, while this is all, these are just allegations in the lawsuit. Now she'll have to prove it eventually. There's going to have to be some, during discovery. What will discovery actually show? Because I don't think there's not really a lot to to back up or refute these kind of things, because they're all experienced by the person and anybody else around them. So that's really going to be the key. What witnesses are there? Who else saw it, and will some of those witnesses become plaintiffs in the lawsuit? So that's going to be the next. We're going to, like I said, in the coming weeks and months, we'll know. But if it settles pretty quickly, I think you can assume that at least a lot of it was, at least part of it, at least, was actually happened.
That was AJ Perez of Front Office Sports. You can follow him on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it, at by AJ Perez. AJ, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward
No
to
problem.
continuing
Thanks.
to follow your reporting.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Keep an eye on it. We got some more stories coming out this week.
And that'll do it for this special edition of C&C Talks. Thank you so much to AJ Perez of Front Office Sports for coming on the podcast with us today and giving his insight on this lawsuit. You can find him on Twitter at by AJ Perez. As for the rest of us, you can follow this podcast on Twitter at C&C Talks Podcast. You can follow Charlie at C&C Talks Charlie. I am at Colin A. Becker. Morris is at Morrison Life. Zach is at Z Simonson. You can join us on Discord, cctalks.com/Discord. We'd love to have you there to learn more about our show, cctalks.com. Episodes coming out every single week wherever you listen to podcasts. But all this information and more is in the description. But for now, for producer Morris, production designer Zack, and Charlie, I'm Colin. We'll see you next week.